Close the doors of your mind from all carnal will, all carnal thought, all of your emotions, all of your thoughts, all of your fears, all the thoughts that are grievous to you, and bring your mind to balance within yourself, within your 12 cranial nerves, with your 12 melanin centers within your hands and your feet that control the rest of your body, within that control your organs, that control your secretions of your toxins, within your inner man and your inner being, and through your liver and your kidneys, through your heart that pumps oxygenated and deoxygenated blood throughout your body, through the sensories and the sensory neurons and the hair follicles that detect and even can detect many things that are around about, that are attached to your nervous system, that are attached to your very mind that you have attached to your body. For today is the day of freedom. Today is the day of Yahuwah's Elohim's day of rest, that we may walk in his steps, who did no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth, when he came to the earth inside of his son Yahusha to redeem man from their wicked ways and the things that they have done in the earth. The one who gives life and understanding to all creatures on the earth, the one who sits above all gods of the 13, above the 13 Shamayim, above all Elohims and all gods, and all serpent beings and cherubim and cherubim and Malakim, throughout the Rakia, all the way to the first and second and third, all the way to the seventh Shamayim, all the way to his throne, who sits with his son, sits at his right hand to help govern and help establish a kingdom overflowing with righteousness. For today, as both male and female, as both Zakar Nakubah, as both Aydah, we walk in righteousness. Not as our own righteousness, but he's saying not having a zeal or enthusiasm for the things that we may feel within ourselves, but understanding that the bar. For man should not live by bread alone, but by every debar, every lakam that comes out of the mouth of Yahuwah, all the food that comes out of his mouth. For the food that we desire is always something that's always in determination of our own will. So as we move forward in kindness, ahab, simcha, patience, meekness, temperance, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Without self-control, how will one be able to understand the essential things that may allow one to be productive in their mind and in the knowledge of Yahushua Mashiach? For we desire these things within ourselves and our inner being. And by only way to actually attain it, one has to walk in his steps. Right, so this is the book of Proverbs, chamy'shy Proverbs, chapter 17. chamy'shy Proverbs, chapter 17, in verse 10. chamy'shy Proverbs, chapter 17, in verse 10. A rebuke or tukah goes deeper in a man or woman of understanding than 100 blows into a fool. Why? Because we look at a man and a woman of understanding, be not hakma da'ah. They understand from the beginning that Yahuwah Elohim made man in his own image and likeness. And we understand that when Yahuwah, our Father, speaks, then guess what? We have to be in subjection to our Father. And we don't need to be, how you say, beat by our Father with 100 blows. Once you understand it. Right? You don't need 100 beatdowns to figure it out, right? But it says, an evil man seeks only rebellion, right? We just talked about Mardon and Nimrod, right? That's all they're going to do. Evil man or woman, that's all they're going to seek. They're going to seek after rebellion. It doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter how you say it or how Yahuwah say it, it doesn't matter. If they're evil, that's all they're going to go against it. A cruel messenger will be sent against him. That's when you start getting the things that you don't like to hear. Things that you don't want to, how you say, taste. Right? People gonna go straight to Philippians. Touch not, taste not, handle not. Right? They're gonna flip the script on you. Right? But in actuality, it's only there for you because you rebel. But it says right here, let a man meet a she-bear robbed of her cubs rather than a fool in his folly. Why? Because bears were a part of our nature and where we live. Bears were a part of where our dwelling places were. It was always something we saw, and that's what we compare animals to. Because we knew when a bear was robbed of her cubs, we know that she was very angry. Right? That's what happens, because it was a part of our natural environment that we actually dwelt among these things. But being that man thinks their dwelling place is somewhere else, they don't really understand it. It says, rather than a fool in his folly, if anyone returns evil for good, here we go, evil will not depart from his house. So somebody does good for you, and you do evil for their good. He said, I want to be evil. I want to be good. I want to be a good person. And when somebody do good for you, you return evil, just understand you'll never be a good person. You'll never be a righteous individual. You'll never be pure in mind. You'll never be pure in thought. You'll never be pure. You'll never be true and righteous in understanding of heart. You never will. You will never be gentle. You never will be. Until you start doing good. Like how Yahuwah made Adam in the beginning in Bereshit chapter 1. After he finished everything on the 6th day, he said, and all he saw, everything he made, he said it was good and very good. All right, until you start doing good and very good, then guess what? You're never going to be a good person that Yahuwah desires. Right? But it says right here, evil will not depart of his house. The beginning of strife is the letting out of water. Why? Because when somebody does good for you and you start creating strife, then guess what happens? It's just like letting out water. You go to the water hose. Back when we used to grow up, you used to drink out of the water hose. Right now, people need special water. It has to be specially bottled with a certain label, with a glass can and everything, right? For $16, right? For 2. Right? Back in the day, you used to drink from or you go to the river. Back in the day, they just go scoop some water out the river. You drink water like an animal. Get you a bottle of water and just go to the river and scoop some water out. But he says just like letting out water. So quit before a quarrel breaks out. So you got to quit. He said, quit before a quarrel breaks out. You ever say, you ever quit something? He said, I quit my job. He said, what job did you have before? He said, I quit it. Why? Because I left. He said, I got tired of it, and I was tired of the job, and it was just like really, really bothering me. It was taking up all my time. Amazingly, these things happen when you quit a job. It was taking up all my time. It was keeping me away from my family. Right? It was keeping me away from things that I really want to do in life. Right? That's the same way you should look at strife. It was not paying me. It wasn't bringing no money to my house. Why am I having strife with somebody who ain't bringing no money? It's making me lose money and time. Right? That's what strife does. It makes you lose. So why don't you quit that like people quit jobs? Because when you can compare and contrast two different lifestyles, you say, oh man, you know what, I gotta quit. Just quit. Yeah. Right? You know how people say, you know how your brother and sister say, quit it. They'll say this. Some people say that. They'll be like, that's a part of it. But then here we go. He who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the righteous are both alike, an abomination to Yahuwah. So he who justifies a wicked person, so you're going to justify a slander, a gospel. You're going to justify an adulteress and a fornicator. You're going to justify a person who has fits of anger and rivalries and strife and quarreling. You're going to justify that person. You're going to justify that individual. He said, he who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the righteous. And then after that, you're going to start condemning a righteous person because you're trying to justify the wicked person. You're trying to justify. You're trying to make sure everything's good with them, but you're going to condemn the righteous person. He says what? Are both alike, an abomination to Yahuwah, because Yahuwah is like, okay, so your ways are unequal. Your balance is off. You ain't got no just Bath, just Ephah, and just Mazon. You don't have that. So therefore, it says, verse 16, why should a fool have money in his hand to buy wisdom? Right, so you can look at all that, and you doing all this. Right, so we just talked about a rebuke. We talked about rebellion. We talked about folly. We talked about being strife. We talked about justifying the wicked and condemning the righteous, right? All that. So then, you know what people want to do after that? Why should a fool have money in his hand to buy wisdom? They want to go get some wisdom. After they doing all that, they want to get some hakma. They want to, as a matter of fact, they want to use their bank account. He says, so why are you going to try to spend some money now? I'm trying to get this wisdom now. You know how people get all the books and things and try to get in all this wisdom, but look at all the stuff you did. It says, when he has no sense. He said, you ain't got no sense. He said, so why are you trying to attain and get wisdom when you ain't got no sense in those little simple matters right there? Those are the very things that you need to bring subjection so that wisdom can really dwell inside of you. Wisdom can't dwell inside of somebody who's doing all that. It can't. But this is what I wanted. Verse 17, a friend loves at all times. Like we know love is also can be correction, but also love can be gentleness and meekness as well. It can be other things. It ain't just correction. I'm going to correct you because I'm your friend. You know, people say, I'm your friend. That's how I'm going to correct you. That's why I make me a friend. Because a friend loves at all times. That's all people think friendship is. No, friendship ain't that. That's the part when you get to the point where you're in strife, where you're in condemning a righteous person. That's when you start getting to correction, right? When you start having folly, you're rebelling. That's when correction comes. But a friendship has nothing to do with that. A friend you can watch the sunset go down. You can sit at the beach and you can go, you can go sit at the beach and you can go get on a boat, right? You can go travel somewhere and no quarreling, no fighting. You can go eat at a restaurant, eat your favorite meal, right? Have a conversation, laugh and joke, right? And nothing happens. Right? A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Why? A brother or sister, they're born for adversity. Why? Because adversity is a part of our transformation. Because some people only love you during the time when you're not in adversity. He says, you only love me when I'm not in adversity, but when I get in adversity, now you're nowhere to be found. Are you a true friend? No, you're only a friend when people have things, when somebody has things, or you're not in adversity. But when they are, you're laughing and joking with them. You're not even being a friend to that person. You're saying all types of things about him. He become a laughing stock. Now, are you really a true friend? Right? You're trying to set him up. All these are a part. But when he had a whole bunch of things, you were the best person in the world. Right? These are all a part of a true friend, right? But that's all a part of it, right? So go in the book of Proverbs, Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 23. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 23. The poor uses entreaties, but the rich answer roughly. He said, why would he say that? It's Proverbs 18:23. That word for entreaties, Proverbs 18:23. The word for entreaties is takanun. Takanun. Yeah, takanun. Tukanun. Tukanun. It means earnest prayer, supplication. Tukanun. Right? The poor uses tukanun. Earnest prayer. When you poor, I only got $10 in my account and the bills are due, right? You're in a different state of mind. Your prayer is a lot more earnest when you actually need some help. But the rich answer roughly. Why would he say that? Right, because people saying, why would he say that the rich answer roughly? That word for roughly is Oz. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Because you're going to mess with a wizard. That's what's going to happen to you. Oz. What did the rich do? The riches are like wizards, and they answer harshly, greedy, power, roughly, strong. That's what happens. When you get a lot of money, riches, you start to change your speech up. Ain't no more gentleness no more. Ain't no more Aynu. Ain't no more Aydah. Right? You start to change into Oz. You start to turn into a wizard. You try to change into a wizard. Everything you say is all about you mighty now. Power, greedy, vehement, harsh. Now you're harsh now. That's what happens when you gain this world. You become rich man, woman. Now everybody, you poor, something wrong with you. Something wrong with you. Right? Everybody got all this advice when you rich. But when you ain't got no money, your prayer is earn this, boy, it's on another level. But you trying to float out of your room, right? You only got one thing left, and it's like, man, where am I gonna go, right? Right, and it says right here, a poor uses to Canaan, but the rich answer roughly. A man of many companions may come to ruin. Why? Because when you have a lot of things, you rich and you answering roughly, you got all these people around you. And when you rich, because a brother and sister born for adversity. Like when you a real friend, you're gonna be around with a rich or poor. But it says right here, a man of many companions come to ruin, right? Because you're gonna have many people around you, but when you come to ruin, you're gonna find out who your true friends are. You be like, man, prove your love for me. I'm gone. Gone. Right? You gone out the door. Right? You know how they say? Gone. Right? You gone. Right? You know how the songs go. Right? You need your best friend's ride trying to do something. You ain't gonna do nothing. You ain't doing nothing. It's the truth. You ain't no friend. Nobody wants you. But it said right here, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother and sister. There's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. But guess what you gotta have? You know that earnest prayer you be talking about? You know that earnest thing you talk about? Go to chapter 19, verse 1. Better is a poor person who walks in his integrity, because you can have all the money in the world. But if you ain't got no integrity, what good is it? When you answering harshly, when you got all these things, and you ain't you ain't like you ain't humble and meek and lowly, you ain't gentle. What good is you having all that money? Not everybody is like what? What good is it? The one who is crooked, he says, better is the poor man who walks in his integrity, right? Who got earnest prayer to Canaan, than one who is crooked in his speech and is a fool. Who harsh, crooked, and you a fool and you got folly. What good is it? What good is a rich man who ain't got no sense? He trying to buy wisdom. What good is it? What good is it, huh? It is no good. Because that's the whole point. That's the whole point. That is the whole point. Right, this is the book of Matthew. Or let's go to Luke. Luke. Let's go to Luke chapter Aydah. Luke Aydah chapter 12 verse 1. Luke 12, Aydah 12 verse 1. In the meantime, when so many thousands of people had gathered together that they were trampling one another, it says that they were trampling one another, he began to say to his disciples, right? Because a rich man, he got many friends, many companions. He said, man of many companions may come to ruin. Look how many people around him. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. He's seeing all these people around, everybody trampling on one another. We're trampling one another, and he began to say to the disciples, beware the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. After all that, why is he saying that? Nothing is covered up that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. Even with all these people trampling on each other, he's saying this. He's saying all this around when people stomping on each other, trampling on each other. Because nobody cares about each other. Nobody cares about each other. Look, everybody's trampling on one another. Nobody cares. What good is having all these companions and people around you and nobody cares about nobody? And people can't see that. Why do you think he was saying be aware of leaven? Because he was saying, look at what they did to these people. Look how they just stomping on each other. They don't even care about each other. And you know what happens? When there's a divide between rich and poor, it's like every person for themselves. Nobody cares. It's every person for themselves. Everybody just stomping on each other's head. That's what you see today. He said, man, you see what these people do? Beware the leaven of the scribes and the Pharisees. And this is what they're going to do to you. You be just like these people. He said, what's your part? Nothing is covered that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. Therefore, whatsoever you have said in the dark shall be heard in the light. And whatsoever you have whispered in a private room, because you know how we talked about closing your door in your room? Because you know, when you pour, you got earnest prayer. You're like, man, look, I'm closing the door. I'm finna go in my own room, and I'm finna close the door. I'm finna go pray to Yahuwah. Why would I go trust in human strength? You see what they do to each other? They stomp on each other. What type of strength is that? He said, what you heard whispered in the private room when you in your room praying, you know how you in your room praying by yourself? You closing the door like Yeshayahu, and you go like Yahusha. He said in Matthew chapter 6, he said, close the door. All those who close the door, they close the door and go. He said, what you heard whispered shall proclaim on the housetop. He said, whatever you hear, he said, proclaim it. Yahuwah said, he told us everybody to love each other. He said, proclaim it. He told everybody to stop slandering each other. He said, proclaim it. What you doing? Right, that's the whole point. Verse 4 says, I tell you, my friends. I told you. There's a friend that stood closer than a brother. You see what them people were doing? They were stomping on each other's head. They didn't care about each other. He said, I tell you, my friends. So he had his friends around. But then he had many companions that were just stomping on each other. They didn't care about each other. Then he had some friends. Because everybody ain't your friend that's around. You know what people say? Everybody ain't your friend. Everybody ain't your family that's around now. You got thousands of people, hundreds of people. It don't mean everybody your friend. It says, I tell you, my friends, do not fear those who kill the body. And after that, have nothing more they can do. He said, that's all they can do. You see how these people stomping on each other's head? Some people don't care about nobody. He said, but I will warn you whom to fear. Now he's saying, so think about it, somebody stomped on your head and trampled on each other. What you gonna do? You think all them people weren't fighting right there? You think they weren't cursing each other out? You think they ain't had no malice because you stomped me and hurt my leg? What was it? You know, people just want to be ignorant. They were just stomping and trampling on each other, and nobody was saying nothing to nobody. You see today, you stomp on somebody, you trample on somebody today. The same thing you see people doing today is the same thing you seen them people doing right here. So why is he saying that? He's saying, but I will warn you whom to fear, who afterwards he has killed, has authority to cast into Sheol. Yes, I tell you, fear him. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? And not one of them is forgotten before Yahuwah Elohim? Why, even the hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear not, you are more valuable than many sparrows, right? So you look at all that. Right, go to Qahalath chapter 15, Qahalath chapter 15 and verse 13. Qahalath 15, 15 and 12. Qahalath 15, actually go to 15 and 10. I'm gonna go there. Qahalath 15 and 10. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. He said, you will abide in my love. Just as I kept my Father's commandments and abided in his love. Right? So it's always going to be a high, because the greatest of these is love. So guess what happens? Just as I kept my Father's commandments and I abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you. Because that's the whole point. His simcha. And that your joy may be full. You want joy in your heart. How you going to get joy? You don't get no joy with people stomping all over you. Ain't no joy in that. Ain't no peace in that. There's no love. There's no faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Think about it. Nobody got self-control stomping on your head. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. I loved you. I ain't slander you. I ain't gossip about you. I showed you love and compassion, even when you were of Satan, Qahalath, and all these people, right? He said, I loved you even when you were evil. So why do you think Yahushua is talking like this? I still loved you even though you tried to stop me from going. You're trying to stop me from going to Jerusalem. Right? I still loved you. Get what he said? This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, than someone lay down his life for his friends. He said there's a friend that stick closer than a brother, but he's saying you lay down your life for your friends. Or you going to be the type of friend that only love when you have abundance. Because a man of many companions can come to ruin. But it says, you are my friends if you do whatsoever I command you. So, in order for Yahushua has stipulations for you to be his friend. He said, if you do whatsoever I command you, then you are my friend. We friends. And most likely, usually when you do what Yahushua tell you, you're going to be his friend, but some things are going to happen to you. Because everybody going to hate your everlasting guts. That's the only thing that comes with it. Because people trampling and stomping on people's head and doing all these things like you just read, you go to those type people and you do things that Yahushua command you to do, most likely you're going to get stomped on your head too. That's going to happen to you too. And Yahushua like, you my friend still? Because I was humiliated, and people don't want to acknowledge me before men. Because nobody wants to acknowledge a humiliated person before the world. Who wants to do that? He was humiliated. He was framed. He was like Yusuf, who was framed for rape. Right? He was just why would you want to acknowledge this person? He was the most wisest teacher. Why he ain't like a rapist or something, a killer? Then he said he gonna blow some buildings up. He said he gonna destroy the temple in one day and build it back in 3 days. You talking about that guy? Didn't they take Barabbas and they let him get killed? Like, you talking about that guy? Him? Yeah, that guy. What makes him so great? He ain't man of renown, right? You know how people say. If anyone do what I command you, no longer do I call you servants, for servants does not know what his master is doing, but I call you friends. That's how you know. He said, I was a servant. He said, man, you're Aydah, right? He said, man, so now I call you a friend. And guess what? For all that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide. What do you mean go bear fruit? Well, we talk about fruits of the Ruach. We talking about being unfruitful in the knowledge of Yahushua Mashiach. He said bear fruit. But it says right here, so that whatsoever you ask in ask the Father in my name, Yahuwah, he may give it to you if you bear fruit. These things I command you so that that you may love one another. He said, so why would he say that? Why would he say that? Right, this is Yeshayahu chapter 54 verse 1. Yeshayahu Isaiah chapter 54 verse 1. Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 1. Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 1. It says, sing, O barren one, who did not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, you who have not been in labor. Why? For the children of the desolate one will be more than the children of the one who is married, says Yahuwah. Right? He said, bear fruit. Because that's the whole point. Right? So go in the book of Yeshayahu. I think it's Yeshayahu. Actually, no. Yeah. 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel chapter 14 and verse 1. 2 Samuel chapter 14 and verse 1. 2 Samuel chapter 14 and verse 1. Now Joab the son of Zeruiah knew that the king's heart went out to Absalom. And Joab sent to Tekoa and brought from there a wise woman and said to her, pretend to be a mourner and put on mourning garments. Do not anoint yourself with oil, but behave like a woman who has been mourning many days for the dead. Go to the king and speak thus to him. So Joab put the words in her mouth. He's like, man, go pretend. So you know how much power a woman got. Go to the king's house and pretend to be some other woman. Act like you don't even know where he at, or where he from, or where he live at. And then, matter of fact, take these words with you. Because that's what other Satans will do. That's what other people do. They end up persuading you to do something, pretending to be something, be sneaky and conniving because they give you instructions to go infiltrate somebody else or do something else, and not even knowing that you were just following the instructions of somebody else. Because Yahusha said, you be my friends, you do whatsoever I command you. You think Yahusha would tell you to go? Let's see what happened. When the woman of Tekoa came to the king, she fell on her face to the ground and paid homage and said, why? Because she just faked it. She faking. She pretended. She pretended. And get what happened? She said, save me, O king. And the king said to her, what is your trouble? What's going on? What's wrong? Because you're supposed to pretend that you had them tears, doing all this stuff. Right? And get what he said? She answered, alas, I am a widow and my husband is dead. That's what she just said. She said, I am a widow. You know, but guess what? She's a wise woman, though. She said, I'm a widow and my husband is dead. But guess what he said? And your servant had 2 sons, and they quarreled with one another in the field, and there was no one to separate them, and one struck the other and killed him. Right? She made the whole story up. Right? So why is she making all this up? Right? And people do this stuff today. Oh my gosh. No. My husband's dead. I have 2 sons that he killed. People do this to get married. Yep. Right, but here you go. Verse 7. And now the whole clan has risen against your servant. And they say, give up the man who struck his brother, that we may put him to death for the life of his brother whom he killed. And now everybody against me. And so they would destroy the heir also. They're going to destroy the heir also. But guess what happened? Thus they would quench my coal that is left, and leave my husband neither name nor remnant on the face of the earth. They're going to wipe out my whole lineage. He ain't going to have nobody left. The heir going to be gone. Then the king said to the woman, go to your house, and I will give orders concerning you. So after all that pretending, she was very wise. Now he getting ready to bark out some orders based upon somebody else's words and commandments of somebody else, sending her to the king to bow to him, to give her this story. And now he getting ready to give out some orders based upon things that may not be true. But Yahusha said, you my friends, you do whatsoever I command you, right? But let's see. Then the king said to the woman, go to your house, and I will give orders concerning you. And the woman Tekoa said to the king, on me be the guilt, my master the king. And on my father's house, let the king and his throne be guiltless. He said, on me let this guilt be. My husband being dead, my children, and he get ready to be destroyed, and my lineage getting ready to go out. He said, let the guilt fall on me. She a wise woman, and she got the right idea. Because Yahusha said in Psalm 69, the reproach of those who reproach you, it all fell on me. That's why she said, let the guilt fall on me. Because he said, just like Yahusha, right? Supposedly. But that's what Yahusha fulfilled. Because he fulfilled both male and female in the Torah. But it said right here, the king said, if anyone says anything to you, bring him to me, and he shall never touch you again. Okay. So now the king like, what they did to you, what they gonna do to you? Now he want to protect her. But remember the first thing she said, there was a wise woman, and he said to her, pretend to be a mourner. So this is all based upon a lie. Fake tears, fake story. Fake husband, fake everything. And guess what happened? The king said, if anyone says anything to you, bring him to me, and he will never touch you again. So now he angry. He said, they touch you, woman, they'll never touch you again. You know how it is, a woman in distress. Then she said, please, let the king invoke Yahuwah, your Elohim, that the avenger of blood kill no more, and my son be not destroyed. And he said, as Yahuwah lives, no hair of your son shall fall to the ground. Then the woman said, please, let your servant speak a word to my master the king. And he said, speak. And the woman said, why then have you planned such a thing against the people of Elohim? So now she done pretended, caught him in his words, pretended, and now look at what she did. She done turned around and put his word right back in his face. Verse 12, then the woman said, please let your servant speak a word to my master the king. And he said, speak, I got a word for you. And the woman said, why then have you planned such a thing against the people of Elohim? For in giving this decision, the king convicts himself. She did all that pretending just to catch him in something he said. That's what people do today. Right? They come to your house, they show you the door, they'll send you an email, send you a message, try to get you to respond, doing stuff like that, what they did to you? Huh? Get you to try to defend their life, and then you get mess around and you start doing things, but they'll never be able to get that done. Verse says, for in giving this decision, the king convicts himself, inasmuch as the king does not bring his banished one home again. We must all die. We are like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. But Elohim will take away life, and he devises means so that the banished one will not remain an outcast. Now I have come to say this to my master the king, because the people have made me afraid, and your servant thought I will speak to the king. It may be that the king will perform the request of his servant. For the king will hear and deliver his servant from the hand of the man who would destroy me and my son together from the heritage of Elohim. And your servant thought, the word of my master the king will set me at rest. For my master, the king, is like a Malachi of Elohim, to discern good and evil. Yahuwah, your Elohim, be with you. Then the king answered the woman, do not hide from me anything I ask you. And the woman said, let my master the king speak. And the king said, in the hand of Joab, he said, is the hand of Joab with you in all of this? He's like, I know who he is. Who told you to come do this? Is the hand of Joab in all of this? Is his hands in it? And guess what happened? The woman answered and said, As surely as you live, my master the king, one cannot turn to the right or to the left from anything that my master the king has said. It was your servant Joab who commanded me. You know, people ain't gonna do that today, though. I say, men and women ain't gonna do that today. He said, who commanded you to do all this and try to trap me on what I said? Who commanded you to do this and pretend? They ain't gonna expose the people that actually did it. He said, who did it? Because you know, when somebody asks you a question, we talked about it in the Garden of Eden. When Yahuwah asked Adam and Kuah what they did, they ain't lying. So when the king asked the woman, the wise woman, who is Joab's hand in this? It is Joab. Right? You know what people do? They cover this stuff up. Right? And then guess what it says? And as surely as you live, my master, one cannot turn to the right or the left from anything that my master the king has said. It was your servant Joab who commanded me. It was he who put all these words in my mouth of your servant. So you telling me people can't put things in your mouth and make you do things just by giving you a commandment to set somebody else up? Conspiracy, right? Conspiracy, right? People do this. In 2025 AD, you ain't even got to be no king, no politician, you ain't got to be no government ruler. They'll do that to you, just you, regular person. And these are a part of the behaviors of people stomping on each other. You know how we just saw with Yahusha? He said, beware of the what? Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. This is one example right here. Oh, people say, that's how fast Yahusha be talking. He said, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. That's one right there. You heard it. You see what he made her do? He's like, yeah, it was Joab. Beware the leaven of the Pharisees. But you see what they do? They stomp on each other. They don't care. That's what people do. That's how it works. He said, and it says right here, and it says, it was he who put the words in my mouth, your servant, in order to change the course of things. Your servant Joab did this. See, people do this stuff to change the course of your life. They will do it to change your course, to try to operate and try to change it and steer you away from the things you're supposed to have for you. That's what they'll put words in your wife, put words in a woman's mouth. Show up and spy out everything he's doing. Yeah, show up, do this, do that, do this, do that. Lie. You'll do this to a man. Yeah, lie. Pretend to be somebody like you really care. We just reaching out, trying to get to you, right? All these things are a part of these people's schemes, plots. All this is a part of this world. Right? We're in a digital age. This is a whole nother age. Right? You got so many different devices and things you can use, and you can use it. Beware the leaven of the scribe. Beware the leaven of the Pharisees. Beware. But get what it says. In order to change the course of your servant, Joab did this. But my master has what? Has wisdom like the wisdom of a Malachi of Elohim to know all things that are on earth. He said, you can't fool me. You can't fool her. If people, male and female, are really truly honest, I promise you, a lot of this stuff wouldn't even be an issue. But when people start scheming and plotting, this is when you start seeing 7-year schemes, plots, 8, 10, 15-year plots and schemes, right? 20-year plots and schemes, right? Just to alter the course of somebody's life. I'm gonna make a phone call. Yeah, you need to go investigate him. Right, these are all a part of this whole construct to try to alter the course of your life. But guess what it says? In the Malach of Yahuwah Elohim, then the king said to Joab, behold, now I grant you this. Go, bring back the young man Absalom. He said, go. And Joab fell on his face to the ground to pay homage and Parach and blessed the king. And Joab said, today your servant knows that I have found favor in your sight, my master the king, in that the king has granted the request of his servant. Why? Because he needed to change something. But this is all a part of how people can alter your life. But So Joab arose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. And the king said, let him dwell apart in his own house. He is not to come into my presence. Right, so this is all a part of it. But there's a reason why there's a reason why all this took place, but we're not getting into that. But that's the whole point. Right? So going to the book of Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 5. Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 54 and 4. Isaiah 54 and 4. Fear not, for you will not be ashamed. Be not confounded, for you will not be disgraced. For you will forget the shame of your youth. Right? We talk about the sins of our youth. And the reproach of your widowhood, you will remember no more. Didn't she just talk about? My husband's dead. And they're going to kill my son. My only son left. His whole lineage is going to be wiped out. For it says, verse 5 says, for your maker is your husband. He said, Yahushua told him, I said, I've come that you might bear fruit. Yahuwah of hosts is his name. The Kudash of Yasharal is your redeemer. The Elohim of the whole earth he is called. For Yahuwah has called you like a wife deserted and grieved in Ruach. When that woman grieved in Ruach? He called you like a woman grieved in Ruach. And you know what he wants you to do when you get there? Tell me the truth. Is such and such hand in this? That's what he wants. He wants you to tell the truth. Like a wife of youth when she is cast off, says Yahuwah Elohim. For a brief moment I deserted you, but with great compassion I will gather you. He's going to gather you in truth. And when you speak, make sure you speak the truth, right? But this is the whole point, right? Going to Proverbs, book of Proverbs. Going to the book of Proverbs. Going to the book of Proverbs, chapter 17. Mostly Proverbs, chapter 17 and verse 1. Mostly Proverbs, chapter 17, verse 1. My ruach is broken, my days are extinct. The graveyard is ready for me. He said, my ruach is broken. He said, he done cursed his life, right? But the sacrifice of Yahuwah is a broken and contrite heart. Surely there are mockers about me. Well, we talk about mockers in Lamentations. And my eyes dwell on their provocation. Lay down a pledge for me with you. Who is there who will put up security for me? Since you have closed their hearts to understanding. Now, he closed your heart to understanding. Why? Therefore, you will not let them triumph. See, what good is a man with money who have no sense and trying to buy wisdom? Since you have closed their hearts to understanding, therefore you will not let them triumph. This is verse 5. He who informs against his friends to get a share of their property, the eyes of his children will fail. You know what they were trying to do? Not using that scenario, but he said it was all against him. He sent that woman and pretended. He said, man, you like a Malaki of you, you know everything. He's like, yeah. He said, I already know. To get a share of their property, is that he who informs against his friends to get a share of their property, the eyes of his children will fail. You're going to steal that man's inheritance. His children ain't going to have nothing. Ain't going to be nothing to pass to your children. Verse 6. He has made me a byword among the people, and I am one before men spit. Look what he said. And I am one before whom men spit. Why do you think they spit in Yahushua's face? Nabayu Mashiach, who hit me, and then they spit in his face. What do you think they did that for? Because they informed him against his friends, right? He said, he who informs against his friends to get a share of his property. Why do you think they brought up 2 false witnesses against him? That's what they did in the nail book. Because a man of many companions may come to ruin. There's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Verse 7. My eye has grown dim from vexation, and all my members are like a shadow. The upright are appalled at this, and the innocent stirs himself up against the godless. Yet the righteous holds to his way. And he who has clean hands grows what? Stronger and stronger. They grow stronger and stronger. Because this is all a part of it, right? Right, so this is the book of Deuteronomy. This is the book of Deuteronomy. This is the book of Devarim. This is the book of Devarim, chapter 8. Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 8 and verse 2. Devarim, Deuteronomy, chapter 8 and verse 2. Devarim, chapter 8 and verse 2. Deuteronomy, chapter 8 and verse 2. It says, and you shall remember, or Zakar, the whole way that Yahuwah your Elohim has led you. Why do you think he said both male and female? Why do you think he got Zakar in the beginning? Why do you think he said remember? These 40 years in the wilderness, that he might humble you. Kana, right? That he might humble you. That word for humble in Deuteronomy, Devarim, chapter 8 and verse 2. Right? That word for humble. Devarim, Deuteronomy, chapter 8 and verse 2. That word for humble is Anah. It's Anah. It means browbeating. It also means to depress. It means to abase, afflict, to chasten, gentleness, to humble, to submit. Right? But it says right here, we're going to Devarim 8 and 2, and you shall remember the whole way that Yahuwah your Elohim has led you these 40 years in the wilderness, that he might testing you to know what is in your heart, whether you will keep his commandments or not. You should like you, my friends, you do whatsoever I command you. Guess what it says? And he humbled you and led you to hunger and fed you with manna that you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by lacham alone, but by every word of the bar that comes out of his mouth. So why would he say that? Because that's all important. All right, this is the book of Matthew chapter 5 and verse Matthew chapter 5 and verse 5. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 5. Matthew 5 and 5. It says, Parach are the meek, or Enu, or Anah, for they shall inherit the Earth. Enu. Parach are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Parach are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Parach are the pure in heart, tahu in heart, laid, for they shall see Elohim. Parach are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of Elohim. Parach are the peacemakers. Shamu. But guess what happened? For they shall be called the sons of Elohim. Parach are the ones who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of chamy'shy. Parach are those when others revile you and persecute you and all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account, right? Just like that woman came to pretend, and she came and created a whole story, and the man was like, whoever touched you, they'll never do it again. Created the whole story, and then she went around and flipped the whole story on it, and then tried to condemn him with the very words that she spoke. Then he said, man, you like the Malachi of Yahuwah. He said, who told you to do that? Joab told. Is his hand in this? He said, yeah, because he's trying to change something. Instead of just actually just saying, I want to change it. And then you want to create a whole situation to try to find a way in to somebody else. You just could have just came to him and said, you know what? This is what I want. But it says, on my account, here's what he said, rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in Shamayim. For so they persecuted the Nabiim who were before you. Why? Because he's like the Malachi of you. They're going to do that very same thing to you. People are going to do that very same thing to you that they did to their king. They're going to do the same thing. Same schemes, same plots, same everything. It's the only way they're doing it because they want to take your joy. Because Yahushua's like, your joy needs to be fulfilled. I want it to be full, but you know what they're going to do? Yeah, go over there and do that. Yeah, you go over there and they're going to plot to take your joy away. Verse 13 says, you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has lost its taste, how shall the saltness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown and trampled under people's feet. Now you see why he said, beware the leaven of the scribes and the Pharisees. Because if you lose your salt, they're going to try to entangle you with that stuff, what they did. And you got to be like the Malachi of Yahuwah. You got to know. Because if you don't, you're going to be like what we just read. And when Yahushua was telling them, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. But everybody was trampling all over each other. And that's going to be you. That's going to be you. Because this is why he said, you my friends, you do whatsoever I command you. Right? You get what it says? Verse 14, you are the light of the world. He said, you are the light of the world. People who do that stuff to you, the only reason they're doing it to you, because you are the light of the world. That's the only reason you're doing it. He said, how do you know you light? That's how you know. People start doing stuff like that. A city that set on a hill that cannot be hidden. Why would he say that? Nor do people light a lamp and put it under the basket, but on a stand, on a menorah. And it gives light to all that's in the house. The same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give kabod to the Father who's in Shamayim. You like the Malachi, you know all things. Was it Joab's hand in this? Yeah, it was him. I mean, you're the light of the world. Because, the wicked hate the light. They won't come to the light unless their deeds get reproved. But that woman did. She realized, I can't pretend no more. She realized, this thing is light of the world. You know what happened after that? He did it. It was him. Everybody started telling the truth now. Man, he bowed his head to the ground because you ain't supposed to lift your head up. Even though he was in the right. Don't lift your head up. But that's all a part of it. Right, verse 17. Do not think that I have come to abolish the Turah or the Nabiim. He said, after he said all that. He said, don't you think that. We just read some of it. Man, you like a Malachi, you know everything. Why do you think the woman said, come be the man who told me everything about myself? Didn't he say that to the woman at the well? He said, come be the man who told me everything about me. That woman was done. She couldn't even get past him. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. Why do you think he fulfilled that? For truly I say to you, until Shamayim and earth pass away, not one iota, not a dot, will pass from the Torah until all be accomplished. Wow, because this is all important. Right? This is all important, right? So we almost finished with this. This is the book of Proverbs. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 41 and verse 1. Actually, Proverbs chapter 41 and verse 3. Proverbs chapter 41, verse 3. Yahuwah sustains him on his sick bed. You know how people say, "It's something wrong with you. It's something wrong with you," not even knowing. Yahuwah sustains him on his sick bed. In his illness, you restore him to full health. May you be in good health, even as your soul prosper. Forget not, he said, what did he say? Forget not Yahuwah and his benefits, who heal all your diseases. Parach Yahuwah, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. Yeah, but they say, oh, there's something wrong with you. Yahuwah sustain you on your sick bed. Matter of fact, he restored me to good health. And we know what he's going to do after that? As for me, I said, oh, Yahuwah, be gracious to me. Heal me. For I have sinned against you. That's the only reason you're going through these things. He said, even though you're in the right, don't lift your head up. You know what else he said? My enemies say of me in malice. Even though he said, I've sinned against you, Yahuwah, I'm on my sick bed. And then, you know, your enemies do when you're on the sick bed. Because, you know, a brother's made for adversity. But they ain't no real friends. You know what they're going to be doing? My enemies say to me in malice. They got malice in their heart when you're in that situation. You know what they're going to say? When will he die? They want you gone, man. I'm telling you. I don't care what you think. When you on your sick bed, I remember one time I was in the hospital, man, they came in that room, but they were like, you wanted me to die. I was like, yeah, they want me gone. People want you gone. That was like, well, that was a long time ago. But yeah, they want you gone now. Don't get it twisted. They got malice in their heart. They like, man, this person ain't dead yet. Look at that. Everything get destroyed yet. He ain't gone yet. They want you gone, man. They got malice in their heart. He said, I ain't no fool. He says, when will he die? And his name perish. They don't want your name. He's like, man, when will he die? Right? They want your inheritance money. They want you gone. Verse 6 says, and when one comes to see me, he utters empty words. He said, he ain't got no words, good words to say. Well, man, what you supposed to say? Man, I hope you feel better. I hope you get back up. I hope everything works out. Man, I hope you get back up even stronger than you were before. They be like, see, that's what you get for all the sins you commit, for all the things you did in your life. See, that's what you get. Ha, 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 ha. You were destroyed. Ha, ha. It ain't working out for you no more. Ain't nothing gonna work for you. You can't be who you need to be now. Right? These are all malice. This is called malice. When he comes to see me, he utters empty words, while his heart gathers iniquity. That's all you gather inside of yourself when you're doing that. You only gather iniquity. He said, every man that named the name of Mashiach depart from iniquity. But you gathering in iniquity by doing that. When he goes out, he tells it abroad. He's like, man, you heard what happened to such and such. Boy, he's sick. He in his bed. He's sinning. He a sinner. They start telling it abroad. Things supposed to be internal. Things supposed to work out internal. Now it's going, you see what happened to him? Boy, his house got destroyed. His whole place. He lost everything. Look at him now. Now they noise it abroad. That's how you know people got malice. They imagine the worst for me. That's all they, in their whole imagination, they want the worst for me. It's okay to say me right now. People say, they want the worst for me. Right? That's how we're gonna get through it. They want to work for us. No, you want to work for me. How me gonna get through it? It could be a male or a female. You gotta say it's me. And it says, they say a deadly thing is poured out on him. He said, man, look at that. Well, Yahuwah done poured it out on him, right? They start talking. And it says, and he will not rise again. Man, you'll never be, boy, you ain't never going to get, what do you think they were saying about Yahushua when he put him in the grave? And then say somebody else took him out of the grave. That's that malice. That's that malice, man. They say a deadly thing is poured on him. He will not rise again. And from where he lies, man, he ain't getting up on the third day. Tell him that liar said he gonna rise on the third day. One day he gonna tear it down. 3 days he gonna build it back. That liar. He ain't getting up from the grave. Who you think you're doing it to when you do it to somebody else? He said, you done it to the least of my brothers. You done it to me, Yahushua Mashiach. That's how fast you can crucify Yahushua and bring him to open shame. That's how fast you can do it. And people don't even know they've done it already. They don't even know they've done it. Even my close friends, there we go, in whom I trusted, who ate my bread, has lifted up his heel against me. That's why when he washed their feet, he said, one of y'all lifted up your heel against me. I washed your feet. I washed the feet of whoremongers, fornicators, liars, slanderers, malice, people who got hatred for me. That's what Yahushua's literally saying to you. And now I'm at the feet like a serpent. And now they getting ready, they lift their heel up against me, get ready to hit me over the head and trample me underfoot. Just like all those people were doing. I mean, we just said, beware the leaven of the Pharisees. Lest you lose your salt. And you know when you lose your salt, you know what's gonna happen to you? They're gonna trample you underfoot. Because you're the light of the world. Yeah, but you are like a serpent on the ground. Because you're lower than everybody else. And they're gonna get you. He said they're gonna lift up their foot heel against you, man. Both male and female. Now this ain't just male, it's both. But you, O Yahuwah, be gracious to me. And this is what you gotta say when you're in these type of situations. But Yahuwah, Elohim, be gracious to me and raise me up. That's all you gotta say, man. It's all a part of it. His mercies are renewed every single morning. Just raise me up that I may repay them. What do you think Yahushua thinking about when he got up on the third day? Man, what do you think he thinking about sitting at the right hand of Yahuwah right now? You think he thinking good about Yashua and Yehuda right now? You think he thinking good about the Romans? The Roman Empire and all that stuff what they did? You think he thinking good about Moab and the Ammonites and Asher and Ham and Ham and all these people, and you think he thinking good? Verse 11 says, by this I know that you delight in me. My enemy will not shout in triumph over me, because you know he said, you lack understanding. I close the heart of understanding. They will never triumph. But you have upheld me because of my integrity. Better is a poor man with his integrity than a rich man. So you can have integrity and be on your sick bed and get ready to die, and you have malice friends around you, and it'd be a punishment for your sins. And you would say you still got integrity. So why should we complain for our punishment for our sin? It's a punishment. But you say, you know what? Remember my integrity, though. Remember my integrity. Remember me in paradise, though. Because remember the thief that said, remember me in paradise, he robbed people, but he still gave to the poor. And he said, Robin Hood. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't saying go rob somebody. Please don't be going to do that. They say rob somebody. No, I ain't telling you to go do that. But it's just telling you. It says, but you have upheld me because of my integrity and set me in your presence forever. And he said, that's how you're going to get there. You got to go through all that, and then you got to hold your integrity through all of it, through what people are doing and saying. And then you got to be gracious to me, Yahuwah. Remember me in paradise. Matter of fact, please set me in your presence forever. And remember me for the little bit of integrity that I got. Please don't forget that. Because there ain't nothing wrong with that. Because the little integrity that a righteous man has is more more than all the treasure of the wicked. Because a lot of people think I got much integrity. But everybody, all flesh, like we talked about in David's writing, the editions of Psalms with him, he said all life is guilty. So why would you be walking around talking about you got all this integrity, knowing good and well and it says, verse 13, Parach be Yahuwah, the Elohim of Yasharal, the Elohim of Yasharal. So when you call on this Elohim in the book of Psalms, Dawid, who came from the tribe of Yehuda, who descended, and he said, I'll never fail a man to sit on the throne of David. He said, the scepter shall not depart from Yehuda. You talking about that tribe? He wrote this and said, the Elohim of Yasharal. So what Elohim you think you calling on when you reading these books? You calling on the Elohim of Yasharal. That's the only one that can give you like life like this. That's the only one that can restore you like this. Yahuwah Elohim. He said, Parach is Yahuwah, the Elohim of Yasharal, from everlasting to everlasting. Amen, right? Amun, right? That's who you calling on, right? So going to the book of, this is interesting. Psalms 73 and 1. Psalm 73 and 1. This is interesting. Psalm 73 and 1. Truly Elohim is good to Yasharal. Truly he is. Who's Elohim you calling on? You can read this, but then it says, and those who are pure in heart. Because purity takes, when you go through a purifying stage, you got to go through fire, you got to go through sickness, you got to go through malice, you got to go through slander, you got to go through all of that. You got to go through hatred. You got to go through the love that you have for evil. You got to go through all of that in order to get the pure in heart. But as for me, my feet had almost stumbled. He said, man, I almost slipped on them people, I almost slipped. My steps almost slipped, for I was envious of the arrogant, and I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For they have no pains unto death. Their bodies are fat and sleek, but they are not in trouble as others are. He said, man, we get in trouble. We get punished for our sins. They don't. Get what it says. I said, man, y'all don't get in trouble, man. We get in trouble when y'all do stuff. Y'all ain't get in trouble. They are not stricken like the rest of mankind. He's like, man, we don't even get. Therefore, pride is their necklace. Violence covers them as a garment. Why? They harsh with their words. Their eyes swell out through fatness, and their hearts overflow with follies. He said, what good is a rich man trying to buy wisdom and he lack no sense? They scoff and speak with malice when you are in those type situations in your life. Lofty therein threaten oppression. That's all they do. They set their mouths against the chamy'shy, and their tongue struts through the earth, right? Just like you see social media things today. Man, everything they say go through, strutting through the world. And no matter of fact, and they praise for it. Guess what it says? Therefore, his people turn back to them and find no fault in them. Because they don't think that everybody's guilty. Right? But it says, and they say, how can Elohim know? Is there a knowledge in the Most High? Right, so this is the book of 2nd Enoch, chapter 4, 2nd Enoch, Hanuk. This is 2nd Enoch, Pseudepigrapha, volume 1. 2nd Enoch, Pseudepigrapha, volume 1, chapter 44, and verse 1. It says Yahuwah with his own two hands created mankind in a facsimile of his own face, both small and great. Yahuwah created them. So Yahuwah made us. And whosoever insults a person's face insults the face of a king. We just read. He said, you going to insult me? And get what it says. And treats the face of Yahuwah with repugnance. He who treats with contempt the face of any person treats the face of Yahuwah with contempt. He who expresses anger to any person without provocation, without no reason at all, will reap anger in the great judgment. He who spits on any person's face, you know what they did to Yahushua? We just read that in the book of Psalms. Insultingly will reap the same at Yahuwah's great judgment. Right, he ain't playing. So you spit in somebody's face, he said, I'm going to spit in your face. You get angry at somebody for no reason, I'm going to get angry at you. But it says, happy is the person, Simcha is the person who does not direct his heart with malice toward any person. Malice toward no one. You see what they do on the sick bed? And when will he die? Man, he ain't never gonna rise again. He said, Parach is Simcha is the person, joyful is the person who has no malice toward anyone. Now you see why you gotta repent for what you did for Yahushua Mashiach. He ain't gonna rise again, and when you do it to other people, you crucify him afresh. Again. When he gonna die? When she gonna die? Right, that's what they do. And you know what happens? That's malice. And you know where you got joy. If you got joy in doing that, it ain't the right joy. It ain't the right Simcha. It's a whole nother type of Simcha. And guess what? But it says to any person, but who helps the offended and the condemned? Huh? Who helps the offended and condemned and lifts up those who have been crushed. Why do you think he was saying that? He will never get up again. What? Malice people ain't gonna help you. Malice people gonna be like, you ain't never gonna be who you need to be anymore. You ain't never gonna rise again. When will you die? You lost destruction, laughing. They're not gonna help you up. You condemned. You know, you're in a state where you who has to be gracious to you. They're gonna be saying all type of stuff. But what did Yahushua do on the third day? Man, he raised us all up. We were condemned too. And he did get up, even in the midst of all that malice. And guess what he did? And it says, but who helps the offended and condemned, and lifts up those who have been crushed, and shows compassion on the needy, because on the great day of judgment, because of the great day of judgment. That's what he wanted. That's what he always wanted. Or continue on, it says, and every measure and every set of scales will be just as they are in the market. You know how you go to the market? You go to some countries, we're gonna measure out some apples, and they start putting apples in there. And then they'll put it in, and they'll say, this is the price, and they'll start taking it out. And then they'll sell it to you. But he said, that's a just balance in the marketplace. I like your children in the marketplace. You know what Yahushua said? I piped on you, you ain't even dance. You ain't had no joy because you got all that malice in your heart. I cried unto you, you didn't even cry with me because you got malice in your heart. He said, but wisdom is justified in your children. He said, what good is a bunch of rich people who trample on each other, who want to buy wisdom and they ain't got no sense? I liken this generation to children in the marketplace who ain't got what? And every measure and every set of scales will be just as they are in the market. Because they got so much malice in their heart. They just laugh. They just children in the marketplace. They just children at play. Guess what it says? They say, that is to say, each will be weighed in the balance, and each will stand in the market. So everybody go in the marketplace. You know how they say the children in the marketplace? You know, we go to the marketplace. It was just like, wait till you come to my marketplace. He said, you coming back to my marketplace. And get what it said. You know how they have the markets today? And they be swindling in everybody. It says, and we'll find, get what it says, marketplace, and we'll find out his own measure in accordance with the measurement. Each shall receive his own reward. He said, That's how fast Yahusha goes, right? So this is the Codex Sinaiticus, New Testament. This is the Codex Sinaiticus, New Testament. This is the Testament of Epistle of Barnabas. Epistle of Barnabas, chapter 2. Epistle of Barnabas, chapter 2, and verse 6. So these things he made of no effect. They're going up to, verse 5. To what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices, says Yahuwah? I am full of whole burnt offerings of rams. I desire not the fat of lambs, nor the blood of bulls and goats, nor need you come to be seen of me. For who has required these things at your hands? You shall not add thereto to tread my courts. You know what else he said? If you bring the fine flour, it is vain. Incense and abomination unto me. Your new moon, your new months, your new ChayParach, your Shabath, I cannot endure. Your fastings and holidays, it says, and feasts, my spirit hates. So these things he made, it says, so these things he has made of none effect, that the new ordinance of the Master Yahushua Mashiach, being free from the yoke of necessity, might prefer an offering not made with hands. Verse 7, again he says unto them, did I command your fathers when I came out of the land of Mizraim to offer unto me whole burnt offerings and sacrifices? Did I not rather command them this? Let each one of you bear no malice against his neighbor in his heart, and love not a false oath. He said, that's all he wanted. Because Simcha is the person who has no malice in his heart toward no one. Joyful. Right? He said, your joy may be fulfilled. And guess what he said after that? And love no false oath. We ought to perceive, since we are not void of understanding the meaning of the goodness of the Abba Yahuwah, because he tells us, wishing to seek us who are wandering even as sheep, how we ought to approach him with no malice in your heart. He said that your joy may be fulfilled. And people say, what happened to us? Right? This is the book of Deuteronomy. This is the book of Deuteronomy. This is what happened to us. Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and verse 45. All these curses shall come upon you and pursue you and overtake you till you are destroyed, because you did not obey the voice of Yahuwah your Elohim to keep his commandments and his statutes that I command you. They shall be a sign and a wonder against you and your offspring forever, because you did not serve Yahuwah your Elohim with joyfulness and gladness of heart. Why couldn't they serve him with joyfulness and gladness of heart? Because of the malice in their heart. That rhymes too. Because they have so many schemes and plots in their heart and malice. And guess what? Because of the abundance of things, right? All the things he gave you, you still got malice in your heart. You all trampling on each other, stomping on each other's head. So he said, being that you all want to stomp on each other's head and lift your heel up against people, this is what he said you're going to do. Because you don't want to be a servant to each other, and you want to hold malice and schemes and plots. This is what he said. Verse 48, therefore you shall serve your enemies. So I'll make you do it to you. And you know what they're going to do to you? The same thing you did to each other. You shall serve your enemies, whom Yahuwah Elohim will send against you. So, in hunger and thirst, in nakedness and lacking everything. I gave you everything, then you have malice and hatred toward each other, and everybody stomping each other, every man for himself mentality. So therefore, I'll just let everybody just come tell you. I'm going to send everybody against you now. And he will put a yoke of iron on your neck until you have been destroyed. Yahuwah will bring a nation against you from far away, from the ends of the earth, swooping down like an eagle. Man, he was like, man, you know how we talk about swooping down, the eagle swooping down like Nabal. Man, he railed at me. Man, they be railing at us like a bird swooping down. He'd be like, man, I ain't expect that. It's like birds attack. And people say, where did they get that movie from? People say, man, they show these movies in the 40s and 50s, birds attacking people. Yeah, right. And you be like, man, what's going on? Right. And he said, like an eagle swooping down. You know what happened after that? An eagle swooping down, like he says, Yahuwah will bring a nation against you from far away, from the ends of the earth, swooping down like an eagle, a nation whose language you do not understand. He's like, you ain't gonna understand what they say. I mean, they swooping down like an eagle. You ever get invaded by somebody you don't understand their language? That's the worst thing in the world. Hey, please don't do anything, please. Hey, trying to, but show me who should be there. I don't understand nothing you saying either. This stuff ain't gonna work. You will make that language void. Right? You get what it says? Swooping down like an eagle, a nation whose language you do not understand, a hard-faced nation, but who shall not respect old or show mercy to the young. It shall eat the offspring of your cattle and the fruit of your ground until you are destroyed. It also shall not leave you grain, wine, oil, the increase of your herds, of your young, or your flock, until they have caused you to perish. They shall besiege you in all your towns, until your high and fortified walls in which you trusted come down throughout all your land. Why? Because of all that malice and hatred and evil plots and schemes and slander and the way you treat each other. He said, beware the leaven of the Pharisees, because this is going to happen to you when you get the leaven of the Pharisees. Beware. He said, unless you be trampled on the foot, they're going to do you the same way. It says, and they shall besiege you in all your towns throughout all your lands, which Yahuwah your Elohim has given you, and you shall eat the fruit of your womb, the flesh of your sons and your daughters, whom Yahuwah Elohim has given you in the siege of distress, which your enemies shall distress you. Now you see, when that woman came to the king, she talked about her 2 sons and her husband was dead, and she made that story up. And then when the king, she's like, man, you like the Malach of Yahuwah. You can see straight into my heart, can't you? Yeah. I already know you're lying. Is the such and such hand in this? Beware the leaven of the Pharisees and the scribes. And guess what happens? The man who is the most tender and refined among you will begrudge food to his brother. To the wife he embraces, and the last his children whom he has left. This is what happens. Everybody just stomping on each other's head. You know how he talked about people were trampling on beware the leaven of the Pharisees and the Pharisees. Everybody was stomping on each other's head. They were trampling on each other. This is what people are doing right here. So that he will not give to any of them any of the flesh of his children, whom he is eating. You're a man eater now. You're a man eater. You eat other people, you eat human flesh. You're a man eater. Because he has nothing else left in the siege and in distress in which your enemy shall distress you in all your towns. The most tender and refined women among you, whom would not venture to set a sole of her foot on the ground because she is so delicate and tender. She's like, man, this is how tender I am. Will begrudge to the husband she embraces, to her son and her daughter, her afterbirth that comes out from before her feet, and her children whom she bare, because lacking everything she will eat them secretly. in the siege and in distress, in which your enemies shall distress you in your towns. If you are not careful to do all the words of this Torah that are written in this book, that you may fear this glorious and awesome name before Yahuwah your Elohim, then Yahuwah will bring on you all the offspring, extraordinary affliction, severe and lasting, sicknesses and grievous and lasting. When you got malice in your heart, when people get punished for their sins, Yahuwah like, he said he will never rise again. I see why Yahushua rose from the grave. He said, remember my integrity, though. You get what it says? Every sickness, verse 61, also, in every affliction that is not recorded in this book of the Torah, law, that Yahuwah will bring upon you until you are destroyed. Whereas you were numerous as the stars of chamy'shy, you shall be left few in number, because you did not obey the voice of Yahuwah your Elohim, and Yahuwah Elohim took delight in you, delight in doing you good and multiplying you. So Yahuwah will take delight in bringing ruin upon you and destroying you. And you shall be plucked off the land that you are entering to take possession. And Yahuwah will scatter you among all peoples, from one end of the earth to the other. And there you shall serve wood and stone. Neither you nor your fathers have known. Among these nations you shall find no respite. There you shall be no resting place for the sole of your foot. But Yahuwah will bring you a trembling heart and failing of eyes and language of soul. But how do you get back? This is Psalm 15 and 1. O Yahuwah, who shall sojourn in your tent? Who shall dwell in you who thou shield? How you gonna get back? He who walks blamelessly and does what is right and speaks the truth in his heart. But you speaking the truth in your heart. Who does not slander with his tongue and does no evil to his neighbor. Don't trample on you know how to trample on top of each other? Don't do it. Nor takes a reproach against his friend. Don't go against your friend. You are my friends, you do whatsoever I command you. In whose eyes a vile person is despised, but who honors those who fear Yahuwah, who swears to his own hurt and does not change. You keep no false oaths coming out of your mouth. Who does not put out his money at interest. Right? You ain't oppressing nobody. And does not take a bribe against the innocent. You ain't setting people up. Right? These are all the things that this is not that hard. He who does these things shall never be moved. He said, man, you ain't never going to be moved from the place where I put you. These are all the things you got to stop doing. That's the whole point. He said you got to stop doing this. Right, so this is the book of 1 Corinthians. Right? This is 1 Corinthians. First Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 6. 1 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 6. Your boasting is not good. Everybody be boasting. Do you not know that a little leaven leavens the whole lump? Cleanse out the old leaven that you may be a new lump, as you really are unleavened. For Mashiach, our Parach lamb, has been sacrificed. Even though you done did all these feasts, they called Mu'ah. Who should have Parach lamb? You learned about when he died, everything he rose. Right? All that took place during Parach. But then he like, let us therefore celebrate the festival, not with the old leaven, the leaven of malice. Why? Because you go approach Yahuwah, Yahuwah gonna weigh you in the balance. The leaven of malice and evil. He said evil, malice, right? But with unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. Just speak the truth. When that woman came to that man's presence, she came with some malice from somebody else, some evil words, some leaven of the Pharisees from somebody else, and then she came into the presence of the king, And the king was like, hold up. And she tried to trip him up with his words, and he was like, you like the Malak of Yahuwah, you know everything. He's like, you right. Is Joab's hand in this? That's sincerity and truth, right? Yes, it's Joab. Yeah, you right. That's sincerity and truth. That's how you want to approach his presence. You don't want to approach Yahuwah's presence with something that's lying, malice, and evil, and plots and schemes. That's what happens. Guess what happened? But with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth, I wrote to you in a letter not to associate with sexual immoral people, not at all meaning the sexual immoral of the world, or the greedy, or the swindlers, or idolaters, since you would need to go out of the world. But now I am writing to you not to associate with anyone who bears the name of a brother or sister who's guilty of sexual immorality. Why? Because that's sincerity and truth. They don't do it in sincerity and truth. It also agreed, or an idolater, a reviler, a drunkard, a swindler. Right? These are all people who oppress the poor. Reviler and idolater. They ain't got no words of, man, you gonna get back up. Matter of fact, you sick and you afflicted. A person who holds malice ain't gonna say nothing to you. They're gonna be hoping you die. When you gonna die? Guess what it says? For what have I to do? It says, is what it says: reviler, drunkard, or swindler, not even to eat with such a one. Don't even eat with them. For what have I to do but judging outsiders? It is those on the inside who are to be judged. Yahuwah judge those outside. Right? That's all a part of it, right? And that's the whole point. Yahuwah is my judge. You know how people say? That's true. That's the absolute truth. Right? So this is the book of. This is the book of James. Book of James, chapter 1. James, Yaakov, chapter 1, verse 26. If anyone thinks he is religious, like you say, you got all the commandments, feast days, all this stuff. I got all the garments and clothes. I look at the Parach. I got all the gold and the plates and the stones. I got all this stuff. And I look so great. Leviticus, everything. I'm aligned with it. Right? And it says, if anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. He said, whatever you're doing, that's worthless. You know why it's worthless? Religion that is pure is undefiled before Elohim, the Father, is this: to visit the orphans and the widows in their affliction. The fatherless and the widows in their affliction. Because remember that woman that came to the king? What did the king say? He's like, hold up, man, ain't gonna be touching. They're gonna do what to your son? Your husband died, so you're a widow. You had children, and they get ready to kill your last child. And any man that put their hand on you, you know what's gonna happen to them? That'll be the last time they do that. He said, but I'm like, you like the Malak of Yahuwah. I ain't coming to you in sincerity and truth. You want to defend me and do all these things for me, and I'm not even being honest with you. Not today, though. And go what it said. And to keep oneself unstained from the world. Why? Because you don't want to be entangled with people. You read all that stuff in Davarim, and you entangle with people who are doing that. He said, don't you even eat with them. You know what happens if you do? He said, come out of her, my people. Because you're going to be a partaker of their sins. That's why he tell you not to eat with them. Because if you're a partaker, and you know what happens after that? You're going to look at you the same way he look at them. He said, don't take it personal. Like he said, don't take it personal. You know how people say that? Because that's going to happen. Because this is all part of it. Right? Verse 2, verse 1. My brothers, show no partiality as you hold Amunah. Brothers and sisters, in our Amunah, Yahushua Mashiach, the Kabot, it says, my brothers and sisters, show no partiality. as you hold the Amunah in our master Yahushua Mashiach, the Kabbalah of Elohim. For if a man wearing a gold ring and fine clothes come to your place, your assembly, and a poor man in shabby clothing also come in, and if you will pay attention to the one who wears the fine clothing and say, you sit here in a good place, while you say to the poor man, you stand over there, sit down at my feet, huh? You say to the poor man, sit down at my feet. Have you not made distinction among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? Yeah, poor man, sit at my feet, wash my feet. I'm a fornicator and adulterer. I sleep around, I bear children out of wedlock. I teach, and I bear children out of wedlock. I swindle, I set people up. I got malice in my heart. I got jealousy and envy. I want that person to die. I want everything to be destroyed. What kind of a, you know what he say? Poor man, sit at my feet. Wash my feet, you serpent, you nakash. That's the only reason you poor. You deceiver. So what is Yahuwah thinking about you? Right? And people say, what happens after that? Not that difficult. This is Odes to Solomon. Ode Shalom. Last couple things and we finish. Odes to Solomon. Actually, no. Let's go to Joseph and Asenath. Joseph and Asenath. This is the book of Joseph and Asenath. Yusuf and Asenath. All right, this is Joseph and Asenath, chapter. This is Joseph and Asenath, chapter 9. Joseph and Asenath, chapter 9, and verse. Actually, let's go to 7, because that's verse. Yeah. Let's see. Joseph and Asenath, chapter 5, and verse 3. Joseph and Asenath, chapter 5, and verse 1. And the young man of Petreus' servant rushed in and says, behold, Yusuf is standing before the door of the court. And Asenath fled from her father's and mother's presence. When she heard them speak these words about Yusuf, and went up into the upper floor and entered her chamber and stood by the large window and one looking east in order to see Yusuf entering her father's house. And Petreus and his wife and his whole family went out to meet Yusuf. And when the gate of the court looking east were opened, and Yusuf entered, standing on Pharaoh's second chariot, and 4 horses white as snow, and with a golden bridles were harnessed to it, and the entire chariot was manufactured of pure gold, and Yusuf was dressed in an exquisite white tunic, and the robe which he had thrown around him was purple, made of linen interwoven with gold, and golden crown was on his head, and around the crown were 12 chosen stones, and on the top of 12 stones were 12 golden rays, and a royal staff was in his left hand and his right, and he held outstretched an olive branch, and there was plenty of fruit on it, and its fruit was of great wealth of oil. He said, didn't Yahushua say to his disciples, I come that you might bear fruit? But then what did he say? And Yusuf entered the court, and the gates of the court were closed, and every man and woman strange remained outside the court, besides the guards that drew the tight and closed the doors, right? Right, so this is the book of Samuel. This is the book of Samuel. 1 Samuel, I think it is. says Book of Samuel. Right, it's the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 6, and verse 1. We almost finished. It says the ark of Yahuwah was in the country of the Philistines 7 months, right? 7 months. Do you know how many feasts we got, Cogs? Right, we got 7 feasts, right? We got it through the first 7 months of the year. And the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners and said, so they were there for 7 months. What shall we do with the ark of Yahuwah? Tell us with what we shall send it to its place. They said, if you send away the ark of the Elohim of Yasharal, there we go, do not send it empty, but by all means return him a guilt offering. He said, if you're going to send back the ark, then you will be healed. What do you think when the man had to send back Sarah to Abraham, he had to make sure he gave her gifts and send her back to him. And then his whole household was healed because they were barren. Because you better send back the ark. You better send her back. And you know what happened after that? And it says right here, they said, if you send away the ark of Elohim and Yasharal, do not send it empty, but by all means return him a guilt offering. Then you will be healed. And it will be known to you why his hand does not turn away from you. Now you see why. Be gracious to me, Yahuwah. They're on your sick bed. They be having that malice against you. He said, be gracious to me. Remember my affliction. Remember. Guess what happened? And they said, what is the guilt offering that we shall return to him? They answered, 5 golden tumors and 5 golden mice, according to the number of the masters of the Philistines. For the same plague was on all of you and all your masters, right? Because they got that bubonic plague. So you must make images of your tumors and your images of your mice that ravage the land, and give kabod to the Elohim of Yasharal. That's why they got that disease. Perhaps he will lighten his hand from off of you and your gods in your land. That's the whole point. Why you complain when you punish for your sin? Why should you harden your hearts as the Egyptians and Pharaoh hardened their hearts? You don't do like them. You know, people hear about this stuff. Don't harden your heart. And the day you hear his voice, the day he start afflicting you, the day he start doing things to you, don't harden your heart. After he had dealt severely with them, did they not send the people away and they departed? Now then, take and prepare a new cart and 2 milk cows on which there has never come a yoke of cows and carts, but take their calves home, away from them. And take the ark of Yahuwah and place it on the cart and put a box at its side, the figures of gold, which you are returning to him as a guilt offering. Then send it off and let it go its way and watch. They say, man, put that thing on and watch it. If it goes up to the way to its own land, to what? To Beth Shemesh? To where? How many, when Yusuf came in the house, he had 12 stones on his crown. He said he had 12 rays of light coming off. And guess what he said? Send it to his own land, to Beth Shemesh. Then it is he who has done us this great harm. Right? See, you guys send it to the house of the sun. Right, that word 1 Samuel 6 and 9. 1 Samuel 6 and 9. Olive Shemuel 6 and 9. That word for Shemash, Bayis Shemash, is house of the sun. How many? Look what the sun got. Rays of light. Matter of fact, it got 12 rays of light. He said, man, you got to send it to the house of the sun. And you know what happened after that? It says, and if it goes up to the way to its own land, what mean no? Its own land. The house of the sun is its own land. Then it is he who has done us this great harm. Now I say that's Yahuwah then. And get what it says. But you know what they say? It's the house of the sun. Let's see what happens. And it says, but if not, then we will know that it is not his hand that struck us. It happened to us by coincidence. He's like, this just happened by coincidence. We got to send it back to the house of the sun. But let's see. The men did so and took 2 milk cows and yoked them to the cart and shut up the calves at home. And they put the ark of Yahuwah on the cart in the box with the golden mice and the images of their tumors. And the cows went straight into the direction of the house of the sun. They said, man, they're going to send it back to the sun, the house of the sun. They put the ark of Yahuwah and sent it back to the house of the sun. You know what happened after that? Along one highway. It was just one way there. It's only one way there. He said, broad is the way to destruction, and narrow is the way to life. Hard is the way to life, and few that will do it. You know what he says? Straight in one direction. And it says, and the cows went straight in the direction of Beth Shemesh along one highway, lowing as they went. Lowing as they went. It's at 1 Samuel chapter 6, verse 12. That word for lowing is ga'ah, to bellow, to be low. He said they were bellowing real low to get there. Real low, like lowly people. They turned neither to the right nor to the left. I mean, they were low too. They were carrying that Ark of the Covenant, and they were real low too. Lowly. And the master of the Philistines went after them as far as the border of the house of the sun. They were sending it towards their house of the sun that they had. But he's saying, trying to show you something. Now the people of the house of the sun, Beth Shemesh, were reaping their wheat harvest in the valley. And when they lifted up their eyes and saw the ark, they rejoiced to see it. They were in the house of the sun. We got to send it back. We got to send the ark of Yahuwah back to the house of the sun. And get what it says. And the cart came into the field of Yahusha of Beth Shemesh, of the house of the sun, and stopped there. It went all the way back to the house of the sun. 12 rays of light. And guess what? And a great stone was there. And they split up the wood of the cart and offered the cows as a burnt offering. And it says, and the Levite took down the ark of Yahuwah and the box that was beside it, in which were the golden figures, and set them upon the great stone. And the men of the house of the sun, Beth Shemesh, offered burnt offerings and sacrifices on the day of Yahuwah. On that day of Yahuwah. And when the 5 masters of the Philistines saw it, they returned that day to Ekron. These are the golden tumors that the Philistines had returned as a guilt offering to Yahuwah, one for Ashtar, one for Gaza, one for Ashkelon, one for Gath, and one for Ekron. Golden mice, according to the number of the cities of the Philistines, belong to the 5 masters. And he sent it back to the house of the sun. And you know what happens after that? Both fortified cities and the unwalled villages, the great stone beside which they sat down on the ark of Yahuwah, is a witness to this day in the field of Yahusha, of the house of the sun. This Shemesh. And he struck some of the men of, you get what it says? And he struck some of the men of the house of the sun because they looked upon the ark of Yahuwah. And guess what it said? And he struck 70 men of them. And the people mourned because Yahuwah had struck the people with a great blow. And the men of the house of the sun said, Beth Shemesh, who is able to stand before Yahuwah, this Kudash one? Do you want to come to you before Yahuwah with malice? And to whom shall he go up from us So they sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kiriath-Jearim, saying, the Philistines have returned. The ark of Yahuwah, come down and take it up with you. Right. The only reason they said that, this is right. So this is the book of. This is the book of Matthew. This is the book of the Matthew, right. So this is the book of Matthew, Yahoo, chapter 5 and verse 13. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has lost its taste, how shall the saltness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. And that's going to be you. But guess what? You are the light of the world. You are the house of the sun. You just like that. Bishamon. A city that cannot be hidden. You can't hide the house of the sun. You can't hide the sun, the rays of light. Like Yusuf came in, he had the 12 rays of light on his crown. You can't hide that. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under their basket, but on a stand, and gives light to all that is in the house. The same way, let your light shine before others, so they may see your good works and give kabod to the Father who is in Shabath. Man, we got to return that thing back. Matter of fact, don't return it without no gift, though. But what's the gift? What do you got to return back to that city, the house of the sun? What do you got to bring back? What do you got to bring back? Because sacrificing the offerings, he didn't want. He never wanted it. I never wanted you to kill no animals and offer sacrifices and all that. I just want you to have no malice and no evil toward each other, right? So what do you got to bring back? What do you got to bring back, right? So this is the book of Romans. This is the book of Romans. This is the book of Romans. This book of Romans chapter 5. Romans chapter 5 verse 15. But the free gift is not like the trespass. For if many died through one man's trespass, much more have Khan of Elohim, much more have the grace of Elohim and the free gift by the grace of that one man, Yahushua Mashiach, abound for many. So you are returning back. And the free gift is not like the result of the one man's sin. For the judgment following one trespass brought condemnation, but the free gift following many trespasses brought justification. For if, because one man's trespass, death reigned through one man, much more will those who receive abundance of Khan and a free gift of righteousness reign in life through one man, Yahushua Mashiach. So that's what you're supposed to bring back. You got to bring back that free gift in righteousness back to the city. You got to bring it back. Because remember, it was cast out the city. It was cast out. Matter of fact, he said, let us go outside the camp. And barely reproach he did. Why? Because it was cast out. He said, what do you got to bring back? Right, so this is the book of Romans chapter 6 and verse 20. It says, for when we were slaves to sin, you were free in regard to righteousness. Right, you don't worry about that. But what fruit were you getting at that time from the things of which you are now ashamed? He said, what type of fruit you would get? For the end of those things is death. When he gonna die? But get what it says. But now that you have been set free from sin and have become slaves of Elohim, the fruit you get leads to sanctification and its end eternal life. You're the light of the world. For the wages of sin is death. That's what happens when all those people were dying from the tumors and all those things, and they sent golden mice and all that, and people died for even touching the ark. Because, it's against the Torah to touch it. Because only the people, Levi was supposed to touch it. 70 other people were touching it. He started killing other people. He was like, man, everybody dying again. But guess what? For the wages of sin is death. But the free gift of Elohim is eternal life in Mashiach Yahusha, our Elohim. So what you got to bring back? He said, you bring back the gift, the free gift, which is Yahusha Mashiach, eternal life. You bring back righteousness, and then what do you bring back? What do you bring back after that? To the Bis Shamash, right? So you can be the light of the world again. Right? This is the last thing you need to bring back, right? This is the last thing. You got to bring this thing back, right? This is Romans chapter 12, verse 1. Romans chapter 12, verse 1. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of Elohim, to present your bodies a living sacrifice. That's what you need to put on the ark. He said, when they were carrying the ark back to the Bis Shamash, they were carrying that free gift. And they were carrying the ark, they were low. And they were lowly too. They were low to the ground. He said, man, they were low. And he says, present your bodies a living sacrifice, kudash, and acceptable to Elohim. So what's acceptable? Which is your spiritual, your ruach worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. What happened? What allowed those people to get renewed in their mind and realize Yahuwah was doing it to them? Things had to happen around them. They had to go through affliction, pain. Then they's like, man, what's going on? We need to send this thing back to the house of the sun. And guess what it says? That by testing you may discern what is the will of Elohim, what is good and acceptable and perfect. What is it? So what's acceptable? How you present your body a living sacrifice to Yahuwah? This is Psalms 51 and 1. Tahalim 51 and 1. Have mercy on me, O Elohim, according to your steadfast love. Because you know why? Because it renews every morning. According to your abundant mercy, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity and cleanse me from my sin. For I know my transgressions and my sin is ever before me. Against you and you only have I sinned. I done what is evil in your sight, so that you may be justified in your words and blameless in your judgment. Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity. Uncool. Right? And in sin did my mother conceive me. But guess what it said? Behold, you delight in truth, in the inward being, sincerity and truth, not malice and evil. Who gonna do all that? How you gonna get back? And you teach me wisdom in the secret heart. Well, how can you teach Hakmah in the most inner parts of your being when you ain't got no sense? What good is a rich man who trying to buy wisdom and he ain't got no sense? What good is that? Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. You're gonna be like you. You know how Yusuf was? He came in he was all white garment, and guess what? You know what happened after that? He said he had a crown with 12 rays of light. He said, "No, you not that your body's the temple of Yahuwah, the house of Yahuwah. You know, the house of the sun. No, you not. You're supposed to be like 12 rays of light when you enter a home." But it said, get what it says. Wash me thoroughly, white as snow. Let me hear joy and gladness. Isn't that what Yahushua said? I want your joy to be fulfilled, that you may bear fruit. But you know what happens. And blot out all my iniquity. You gathering iniquity. Because you talk about malice. You gathering in malice. You gathering iniquity when you have malice. You gathering it in. And you gathering iniquity. He said, blot out my iniquities. Create in me a clean heart. La. Oh, Elohim, renew Qahalath in me the right ruach. The only way you're going to happen, you got to go through affliction and pain. You got to go through some things in your life that you don't want to deal with. And you're going to have people malice and having slander and everything get you to quit. Cast me not away from your presence. He said, You will remember my affliction. Matter of fact, heal me. Even though these people got malice toward me, he said, heal me. Matter of fact, let me dwell in your presence forever. You know what David said? Guess what? And take not your Kudash Ruach from me. You need the Ruach for your weaknesses. Because all the creation groans and travails in birth pains, waiting for the birthing of the sons of Elohim. Right? Restore to me the joy of your salvation. Because you see what happened in Devarim chapter 28 and 2nd Enoch 44. He said what? He said, Simcha, joyful is a person who has no malice toward anyone. And uphold me in your willing Ruach. He said, don't even force me to do it. Because that's what happened to them Philistines. They were forced them to do it. Then I will teach transgressors your ways. He said, then I'll start teaching. And sinners will return to you. You know what happens at that? Deliver me from blood guiltness, O Elohim. O Elohim of my salvation. My tongue will I sing aloud of your righteousness. Break forth into singing, thou that bearest not. From all the children of destruction, and she that had a husband. O Yahuwah, open my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise. For you will not delight in sacrifices, and I will give it. When I brought him out of Mizraim, I ain't never told him about no sacrifice and offering. This is what I told him. Obey my voice. Make sure you don't have no malice and evil toward each other. For you will not delight in sacrifice, I will give it. You will not be pleased with burnt offerings, for the sacrifice of Yahuwah Elohim are broken ruach. That's what you got to bring back. That's what's acceptable to him. Because all life is guilty. For sacrifice of Elohim is a broken ruach, a broken and contrite heart. O Elohim, you will not despise. You ain't gonna despise that. Do good to Zaun in good pleasure. Build up the walls of Jerusalem. Then will you delight in right sacrifices. He said, what type of sacrifice? Present your body a living sacrifice. Kudash and acceptable. You know what happens? Build up the walls of Jerusalem. Then you will delight in the right sacrifice, in burnt offerings and whole burnt offerings. Then bulls will be offered on your altar. He said, I never commanded you about offering animals and killing things, and I never told you to do that. I wanted you to bring your body and your mind and your heart as a willing sacrifice. Right? That was the whole point. Right? That was the whole point. Right? That's the whole point. Right? So this is Psalms 37, 7 through 11. Be still before Yahuwah and wait patiently for him. Fret not yourself or Qahalath over the one who prospers in the way, over the man who carries out evil devices, evil and malice. They ain't got no sin. He said, don't even Qahalath, don't get angry over that. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Qahalath not yourself. It tends only to evil. That's why people got evil in their heart. He said, man, they got malice and they make you a laughing stock. They start mocking. They got harsh words. He said, don't even do it. For the evildoer shall be cut off, but those who wait for Yahuwah shall inherit the Aydah. He said, those who wait. In just a little while, the wicked will be no more. Though you look carefully at his place, and he will not be there, but the meek shall inherit the Aydah. He said, the meek. They're going to be there and delight themselves in the abundance of shalom. Right? He said, be still and wait patiently for him. Right? That word be still is demand. Wait, be still, and make quiet, and be silent. He said, be silent. Why? Because the meek shall inherit the Aydah. The Anun. Ayin Nun Wu. Seed, life, and the resprout, and the renewal, and be joined and secured with a tent peg. See it. It's just like the beginning. Bereshit, Parach, Elohim, Aydah, chamy'shy, right? The house. Right? You look at the first one. The house. strength, secured. With a tent peg. Strength, secured, with a tent peg. He say, ain't new. You gotta see it. It says means poor, humble, afflicted, meek, poor, and needy. Because when you poor, needy, and meek and afflicted, you know what happens? When you on your sick bed, and people gonna be like, when he gonna die? When you gonna die? That's the people with malice in their heart. When he fell into destruction, when all this stuff gonna be gone? Destruction, you become a laughing stock. That's what happens when people got malice toward you. It's a part of it, right? That word for abundance of shalom. He said you're gonna be delight yourself in abundance of peace, completeness, soundness, tranquility, peace, and quiet. That's how you know. That's what you should strive for. Yahuwah calls us to peace, soundness, quiet, tranquility, peace. That's what you want. He said, I'm searching for happiness. Simcha. He said, I'm looking for happiness, but first I want peace first. I want joy. Everybody wants joy. I want shalom first. You want peace, then get joy. You want to be, because it's all a part of it. Kindness, aha, kasid, aha, simcha, shalom. Right? All that's a part of it. You can't get self-control without it. This is Proverbs 16, 19 through 20. It is better to be of a Einu Ruach with the poor than to divide the spoil with the proud. Whoever gives thought to the bar will discover good. That's why he said you're going to be good or you're going to be evil. Be good. And Parach is the one who trusts in Yahuwah. He said, I don't trust these people. You can trust people with malice all you want to, with harsh words and mocking and slander and gossip. You can trust them people you want to. Because they hope you die. They hope you be destroyed. They hope you lose everything. They don't want you to prosper. They don't want you to get established. They jealous and envious. They mock, they spy. They do all types of things. And he said, eavesdroppers. Right, this is Sirach chapter 3, 17 through 23. My son and daughter, go on thy business in meekness. Aydah. So shalt thou be beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more Aydah anah thyself. And thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. You be acceptable sacrifice. You know, I talk about present your bodies to Yahuwah, a living sacrifice. You be an acceptable sacrifice. What sacrifice you see, even when they kill animals? Them animals had to humble themselves in order for you to kill them. You think the animal just came in there kicking and screaming? No, they had to humble that animal. The animal had to be humbled down. He had to be left alone. Matter of fact, he had to be left alone. And then everybody come by. You dead tomorrow. You gonna be on the dinner table tomorrow. Right? They mocking you. When he gonna die? When he gonna die? Right? That's all they want. That our sins may be forgiven. On atonement, kafar. Right? You that animal out there. You like sheep. You like a lamb for the slaughter. But that's the whole point. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself. Aydah. And thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. Why? Because you're going to humble yourself even more, and they're going to lift their heel up against you. You're going to be trampled underfoot when you lose your saltness. Beware the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Not only in yourself, but in other people. Because they get inside of you. What do you think these people are going to do to you? Many are in high places and renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the meek. The Aydah. For the power of Yahuwah is great and honor with the lowly. That's how them cattle were when they were going back to the city of the sun, Bish Shamash. They were low. They were low carrying their ark. And when they stopped right at Yahusha, at the house of the sun. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. Right? That's what Yahuwah is my rock and my strength. If you go outside of Yahuwah, who's above Yahuwah in his strength? He said, you'd be a fool to think anything else. But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence. No malice, no harsh words. Not having malice toward anyone. He said, don't even be angry at the face of anyone. But it said right here, but what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence, for it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. He said, Yahuwah, you judge in my secret heart. You show me, you teach me in my secret heart. When Yahuwah starts teaching you in your secret heart, that's when you can get those secret things that nobody knows about out of your life. He said, that's when you start getting deeper. He said, man, he going deeper in my heart. And you know what happens? Be not curious in unnecessary matters. And we just talked about it. That's really unnecessary. For more things are showed unto thee than men and women understand. He said, then you can even comprehend. Right? So we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at the light of life. We look at the Bith Shamash. He said, for you the light of the world, a city that cannot be hid, a house that cannot be hid. But no man lighted a candle and put it under the table. They put it on top of the lamp stand, that all may see and may give light to the house. So we look at our inward man, or look at our inward self, and we look at the light of life, we look at the malice that man holds toward man and women hold toward each other, and how men trample underfoot of each other. But beware the leaven of the scribes and the Pharisees. Beware of the pretending, and beware of the pretending within oneself. So we look at our inward man, we look at our inward self, and we take catalog of all the times that this has happened in our life and all the times that we manifested these things and we did it to other people. But that is true judgment, and that is true examination within oneself. Because true examination takes place within oneself in their own room when they shut the door. When nobody's around and nobody's there, and you find yourself by yourself, and you see how to see yourself by yourself, and then you can make examination of yourself by yourself. So you can be a productive man and woman in the world, that you may be able to show yourself and make your calling, your election sure. And we are not elected yet, but we elect to be approved when Yahuwah measures us in a balance, and he judges our balance in the market. And just like a man measures his fruit on the left and the right of a balance, and see which one is good and which one is bad, and which one we're going to take and which one will not take, your balance will be weighed, and it must be just in Mazon, even as like how Mazon equals to 8. And you got to measure with his Debar, which equals to 8. And it has to be with Yahuwah equals to 8, knowing that his Torah equals to 8, knowing that all these things are transformed by a circumcised life. And that circumcised life takes place within yourself, within your inner man, your inner being, your liver, and your kidneys. So we filter out the things that we don't need anymore. Because everything can't go with you when you go to Yahuwah's presence. You got to get rid of it. And he said you got to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Right? So we understand in ourselves, we understand in the inner being, we shall no longer live according to these things. Right? So this came to my mind. This is Uganon chapter 7. John chapter 7, verse 32. Uganon chapter 7, verse 32. The scribes and the Pharisees heard the crowd. Right? So beware the leaven of the Pharisees, muttering these things about him. The chief priests and the Pharisees sent officers to arrest him. He said, go get him. You got to take him out. But you know what he said? Yahusha then said, I will be with you a little longer, and then I will go. I am going to him who sent me. You will seek me, and you will not find me. Where I am, you cannot come. He said, you can't go with me. The Yahudim said to one another, where does this man intend to go that we will not find him? Does he intend to go to the dispersion among the Greeks and to teach the Greeks? What does he mean saying, you will seek me and you will not find me, and where I am, you cannot come? Verse 37, on the last day of the feast, the great day, Yahushua stood and cried out. So how long did they have the ark? For 7 months. What feast is this? And what did he say? If anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink. You know what happened after that? Whosoever believes in me, as the scripture has said, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water. You know what happened? Now this is he said about the Ruach, whom those who believed in him were to receive. For as yet the Ruach had not yet been given, because Yahusha has not yet been glorified. Yet. And that's the reason why. He said, until you acknowledge me before men, Yahusha said, you'll never be glorified. He said, my name will never be glorified. He said, you will never get the Ruach. We look at all these things that is in ourselves. We look at the true light of life. We look at the true ore that was in the beginning on the first day. For he said, Parach are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. But he said, go on your way in Aydah, thy business and meekness. So should I be beloved of him that is approved. Right? There's only one that was approved. Everybody else fell into condemnation. But in order to be approved, you must go in Aydah in meekness. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the Aydah, the whole earth.